I'm super excited. I'm gonna go and talk to Paula and talk to him about his hair. I think that there's a lot of potential there, and I'm really proud of my hair, and I feel like there's so much I can do for him and help him out with in that department. So I'm gonna go check him out.
Later on, the Summer of Love.
What are you doing? Okay, well,
So,
trust you, Sue.
yeah,
I thought my hair was good as it is.
it is.
So gross.
Creaming Moses or creamy Moses?
It can be both, depending on the situation, right?
I'm going crazy for you.
Eight of the world's best CSGO teams have descended upon the SSC Arena here in London. After an action-packed day number 1, it is now time for a thrilling second day. After a few surprises, 4 teams now sit on the brink of elimination as we find out who will play in front of the British crowd come Saturday. It's ECS London 2019 and the Season 7 Finals. Tickets are now available for tomorrow and Sunday, so if you want to join us here in Wembley, London, head on over to ecs.faceit.com. As a final note, use the hashtag ECS7 and let us know your thoughts on any and all of the action. Coming up first today will be Denmark versus Sweden, as we'll have Astralis taking on the Ninjas in Pajamas. Will it be the former best team in the world staying alive, or will we see some NiP magic today? It all starts now. This is the ECS Season 7 Finals.
That is right, guys. We are back for day 2 of the ECS Season 7 Finals. Yesterday, we saw NRG and North claim their first spots in the semi-finals tomorrow. But today, we've got a hell of a lot more action to get into. We're going to see which 2 other teams will be joining them tomorrow. And of course, I can't do this alone. I've got the lovely Chad and Halva up on the desk with me. Guys, you weren't here for the second 2 best of 3s yesterday. What did you make of those, just watching from the lovely sofas in the green room?
We definitely missed the drama of the best of 3s. I think after we saw that North game go down with MIBR, I didn't have too much hope, but they were able to get across the line against Vitality, and then Furia, well, they fell flat against NRG. All that hype from the Astralis game dissipated very quickly.
Yeah.
Very much so, and especially I mean, if there was one series I was expecting to go 3 maps, that would have been the Furia Energy game, especially because we've seen how strong Furia can be on that map. Got absolutely dismantled, not something I expected. And I guess that might be a result of them having issues, you know, I guess settling down after beating Astralis, that kind of a thing.
They did have a pretty cool double fake on Train that I watched on Reddit this morning, though. Someone did like a composite with the 5 POVs and the map, and they had that all gone. I thought, look, we always know the tactical diversity of Furia is there, so we get to see them later today, I believe, right? They play the winner of our first game.
Yep, that's exactly right. And if you guys weren't here yesterday to check out all the action, don't worry, we're going to go over it all today in our first opening segment. So let's start off with our format. Yesterday, we saw the group stage games playing out with Group A and Group B, and today we're going into those losers bracket games. So it is elimination time for some of these teams. There's a lot on the line here.
Yeah, well, especially for Astralis, right? Because let's be honest here, they're no longer the fan favorites. They actually have, I would say they're the villain right now of the Counter-Strike community. Someone has to be it, and I'm glad it's not me, and well, it's them. So when we're looking at their matchup today against NiP, we've seen them struggle a long time ago against the Ninjas, but it's been a significant amount of time. I think they're in an 8-map winning streak against them now, something along those lines. But Group B on your screen right here, MIBR falling very flat against North after a riveting first half, a 12-3 scoreline that could have been a 13-2, and then they lost 25-23 in triple overtime.
It was absolutely insane.
It was a game and a half. Yeah, not sure what to make of it. Seems like North, once they got into the best of 3 stages and played Inferno there, a lot better, needless to say. Though I don't think they set the bar too high in terms of improving their T side. But good to see that they actually sorted out, you know, some of the mistakes that we saw initially. And I mean, they're qualified for for the semis. Top 4 secured.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and we'll see the bottom 2 of Group B going up against each other later today, and then up against Vitality for that last remaining spot. And let's take a look at today's schedule just to see what is going to be going down. So obviously starting off with an unexpected game, Astralis versus NiP, then moving on to see Complexity versus NABR, both elimination games from there, and then moving on to Furia versus the winner of Astralis versus NiP. Again, another elimination games, even if one of the 2 teams go straight to that game, they're still not safe. So they've got a lot on their plates today.
It's a long road for the teams who lost their opening games yesterday, right? 2 best-of-3s in the day, and if they're close matchups, you could be playing 6 maps. It's going to be a bit of a marathon, but this is the situation. If you lose your opening game, it has to be harder for you to get to the playoffs. That's just the way things work, right? If you want the easy path, you got to win.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you've paid your own way. Now, you have made your own bed. Now you have to lie in it. Yeah, pretty much. And I think most of these teams, it's not like it's a completely unheard of situation. Weirdly enough, it might be one of the first few times we've seen Astralis in this kind of scenario, so they might have to slog through a bit of a marathon that they're not exactly used to. But I think every player and every team that's here have been in a similar situation at one point in their career, so they should be well enough for us to deal with it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, speaking of Astralis, we've got the highlights up on the screen now. What are you guys kind of making of that yesterday's games? Obviously, it was a best of 1, and it was incredibly close, 16-14.
So if we look at the game itself and we were to break down the reasons that they lost it, it was quite sloppy. It's not what we've come to expect from Astralis in their legacy run, right? There was a map that they were 31-0 on, and now they're 0-2. They've lost to Ents at the last Blast event, and now they've lost to Furia. Now there's a stark contrast between Furia and Ents, but regardless for Astralis, they need to... Coming into this tournament, for me, it was win or nothing, right? Because if you want to continue to have the mantle of like the unbeatables, which they're no longer the #1 ranked team in the world, but Liquid still need to topple them if they want to completely take that crown, in my mind. But if Astralis have just completely fizzled out and they can't even make it to the finals anymore, they can't even be in contention, then that conversation needs to be started anew. And you could see yesterday when they were shaking hands, they weren't too happy with how things went down. I think a best-of-1 loss, of course, you're going to be pretty upset with that one, and your first tournament back in some time. So today we're going to be seeing if they can turn their luck around.
Well, that was kind of a question I was going to ask. How are they going to start fighting back for that #1 spot in the world? Obviously, we want to see a Liquid versus Astralis game. We're not going to see that here because Liquid didn't qualify, unfortunately. MIBR took that spot. But what are they kind of going to do from this tournament to look convincing again?
Win.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's a pretty simple recipe in that sense. Yeah, I guess I would go a little bit more lenient. If we can see them get to a finals, then I would have been, I guess, happy with that. But I did think we saw, I guess, not the expected level out of their, I guess, potential opponents as well. So far, I was expecting a lot better of a showing from MIBR. I felt like they definitely had everything within them to potentially breeze into a semifinal spot. They didn't do so. So yeah, a lot of unanswered questions to the point where if, I guess, the opponents aren't really matching up either, then a final spot might not be as impressive as I first imagined it would be.
Our expectations have completely changed.
Yeah,
right?
they really have.
I think today will be the true test, right? Because you move into a best-of-3, maybe it's a wake-up call that their nuke isn't as strong as it once was, and now we get to see what they've really been dedicating their time to. Because against NiP, the map pool's wide open for them to pick, so there's lots of options for them in that regard. But we just need to see if they still have it, because if you've won 2 majors in a row, you've won a whole bunch of tournaments, you're defending champions back-to-back of ECS, complacency is something which we never would associate with the team of Astralis.
No.
Yep. But now it might actually be something worth discussing.
Yeah, well, definitely. I'm going to move on to have a look at their opponents, NiP, who obviously lost 16-11 to NRG yesterday. It was a pretty even matchup between them, but coming into this, a best-of-3 against Astralis, how must they be feeling mentally, right? Like, this is their elimination game.
I mean, pretty bad. And I mean, all things considered, in the fashion they lost to Energy as well. It started off well at 10-5 first half on CT side of Train. You're thinking to yourself, like, okay, they're giving themselves a pretty decent, outlook to actually, get a win, get into a fighting spot for a semifinal instead of best-of-3 series, and then just fall completely flat on their T side.
One round.
A single round on an intertake that they didn't try to recreate ever, after that point, which is it's a bit of a worry because if you weren't already inflated from that loss, now you have to go up against Astralis in a map in their 3-map series, which again hasn't historically gone too well for you. Even if you have been competitive, you're not getting wins, and that's really what matters at the end of the day.
So it's 8 maps in a row that they have lost against that of Astralis, right? And when you... I want to start the rumor mill. Screw it. Let's do it. I've done this before at a Faces event. Let's do it again now. Get Right is sitting in the middle.
Yep.
That normally, for those of you at home who don't know what that means, normally, not all the time, but normally that's where the in-game leader sits, right? Because you're in the middle, you can see all the screens, you're calling the shots. Get Right's in the middle now. And he just did the veto with Pitta, which normally is also the in-game leader's responsibility. Now, I'm basing this off literally nothing other than those two facts, but maybe there's been a change.
Wow,
right? Which would be a big change because Get Right has definitely been one of the most lackluster performers for NiP for some time now. And if he's going to pick up the mantle of the in-game leadership role because maybe he's not contributing in the same frag department, then that could be a good or a bad change. But right now, it seems like a bad change because we only got one T round. If this, look, I'm completely spitballing here. This might not be true, but that was just something that I noticed, right? And we may as well bring it up. We may as well talk about it. But now it's out on the table, so let's find out if any news seeps through with that one right there. But either way, with that 8-map loss streak, right? They've tried it on a bunch of maps. You know, they played Inferno twice, Overpass once, Mirage once, Dust 2 3 times, Train once. The last time they actually won a map against Astralis was back at ECS Season 6 finals in the semi-final, which was on Train, and they only took one map in the series.
Wow. Okay, so a good 6 months ago from them.
It's been a
Not
while.
looking good. Yeah, well, maybe the ECS magic corresponds with the NiP magic. I don't know. But we're going to take a look at, well, potentially the former in-game leaders. In our head-to-head, we're going to take a look at Glaive and Elecro for our head-to-head this time. Obviously, you have speculation that Get Right may be taking over the reins. It might, but you might be onto something. So we'll do a little bit of comparison between these two players.
Lecro, so if we look at these two in-game, actually, happy birthday to Glaive. He's 24 today. Who would have thought that somebody who's achieved so much could be so young? But when you look at these two players toe-to-toe, Glaive actually kind of was the one who came in when he stood in for Astralis, and then he took over the in-game leadership role, and then he had the mantle now of probably being one of the greatest in-game leaders of all time because he has assisted in elevating the bar of Counter-Strike to this level. Then you look to Lecro, somebody who seems like he's picked up the in-game leadership role out of necessity as opposed to choice. Now, obviously, there has to be a little bit of choice. He has to be complicit in it. He doesn't just get forced upon it. But he's is nowhere near as experienced as an individual like Glaive when you look at the history of these two players. So they have two very different styles of in-game leading. They are two very different approaches to the game, but both can have a lot of impact in these close matchups. One that comes to mind is, I think it was against Astralis a long time ago now in Mirage, where they did take a map. Maybe I think it was the Major last year. I forget. My memory's not great. But Lecro had a massive game on Mirage to get them across the line, if I remember. I'm going to check the stats.
I think it was a Major. I think I remember because they...
It was overtime or something, and Lecro went huge.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
So he's done it before, and he's done it here in London. So maybe he can do it again.
There's a potential, right? And again, for I guess for all the downsides and all the negatives surrounding NiP at times, and the overhanging cloud of inconsistency, right? They do have a pretty high top level, and Liquor is definitely one of those players, and he can absolutely go off. Yesterday, we saw him being the best performer on the side of NiP. If that's again related to Get Right sitting in the middle, maybe being in-game leading, you never really know. But like one of the reasons why Liquor was brought into the team in the first place was because he had star player caliber. For him to find the way to unlock that while potentially in-game leading and so on is obviously going to be a massive thing for NiP in order to actually topple Astralis, because that's one of the things that Glaive actually managed to do. Like one of the things we always talk about him, aside from being very solid strategically, is the fact that he's able to frag with the best of them. Like you have multiple games where he's actually the leading fragger on the side of Astralis.
It Impact yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's not just picking up eco frags and getting easy kills in that sense. No, he'll actually take charge, and he'll actually be like the vital piece to the Astralis puzzle.
Well, definitely. And I mean, just picking on what we were saying yesterday, we were saying Forest and Rez need to be the two players to step up.
Yeah.
They were the two players at the bottom of the leaderboard, right? So we can't really expect those kind of results if they're not stepping up. So
yeah, and it looked like there was a lot of frustration as well, because when we came up here to the desk, one team was obviously celebrating the victory, and the other was Forest was automatically unplugging everything. Get Right sat there for a while. But you're bang on, those two players. Rez is, I think, the star of NiP, maybe the future of NiP in that regard, and Forest is the greatest Swedish Counter-Strike player probably of all time. I don't think there's too much debate there.
No.
And his impact has been consistent. So for him to have a strugglesome series, it's a worrying sign. I don't know. We noticed they had changed things around, right? On their CT side, they had put Dennis towards inside holding that bomb site. They had Get Right over towards Ivy. So there's a few things moving and changing in the waters for NiP that might be fruitful, but we haven't actually been able to see enough just yet based off the fact Dennis couldn't get his Esther sorted for Dallas.
Yes,
so this is the first real look at if they have changed things, what's really going on.
Well, and we're going to be able to see exactly what they're going to be playing as we head into our map veto. Let's get a little bit of speculation going. What are we thinking?
Yeah, I think that NiP in Dallas, in their best of threes, they banned Vertigo twice in the first round, so I'd expect it here. That's what you were saying. You were thinking train as well.
Yeah, train actually could be one of those, and Astralis actually decided to opt out of it. So that means that Mirage is still on the table, which seems like a pretty nice
pick.
It just seems like a nice way to go for NiP.
Overpass as well.
Overpass as well. That's been one of the, I guess, lacking places for Astralis actually, as they've gone through their era, or towards the end of it, they've been more and more shaky on that map, which used to be a pretty solid staple for them. Yeah. So going into a third one. Dust 2 seems to have been, pretty common ground for both these teams. They've had a fair few bouts on that map, especially during a lot of the last series. And I think that if NiP can somehow manage to scrap their way to a third, that's a pretty open contest. And I say that, like, even though the results aren't necessarily looking that promising in terms of just history, like you'll have 16-10 wins, 16-12 wins for Astralis, which doesn't necessarily indicate a close game, but when you've actually looked at them and seen how they play out, it's very, very small margins that actually set Astralis apart in those instances.
It is important to note, though, Astralis did not pick into Nuke, right? Because that was their go-to for the longest period of time. They were happy to take it there yesterday against Furia, so they must be feeling a little bit shaken on that map to go. Now, Inferno, obviously, their second best map, or maybe they feel it's their first best map, or they had a record on that too, but they've lost that as well. They lost that to Big a couple of weeks ago in Pro League group stages.
16-14?
Yeah, that was another close affair, right? So Inferno is a very comfortable map for them. Just you look at the basics, they do very, very well. Their banana control, the way that they flex around the map with stacking 3 players over towards B at the start. They've obviously changed the way that map was played as well. So it's a safe pick. It makes sense. And for NiP to get through on that map, they're going to get started on the CT side. It's going to have to be a pretty heavy, I'm thinking 11-ish rounds. If you want to be able to take that one off of Astralis, it's not going to be an easy feat by any means.
No, definitely not. I mean, I was speaking to a completely different player, MBK, ahead of the Season 7 finals, and he was saying he was gutted that he couldn't end Astralis' nuke streak. He wanted to be that team, not ENCE, to end it, which I think that'd be a pretty mean feat, right? ENCE must have been pretty happy with that.
Well, I think, they thought that they predicted it. They were saying, you talk to them in interviews and you hear all the stuff that they're saying, it was saying that they had planned as well. So maybe there was a lot of people, maybe there was a bounty between all the teams.
Yeah,
someone had fronted a lot of money.
Their own little Grand Slam kind of thing going.
Who can take nuke off of Astralis? But that streak is well dead now, and this has to be where, if Astralis want to reignite, being the best team in the world, they need to start here with this victory, because this is such a terrible way for them to kick things off. Losing to Furia is something which Astralis would always beat the teams that they should, right? They would occasionally lose to teams, who are around their level, or, teams within striking distance. But Furia are very new to this. So it's such a worrying loss. And I'm hoping we don't see those signs today, because that could have just been the end of Astralis fizzling out without actually seeing them put up a fight. They've just dropped off.
Well, exactly.
Not going out with a bang,
no.
pretty much. And it's a bit of a shame, because that was always the strength. Like, Astralis would just close out, I guess, easier opponents, if you want to put it that way. NiP on their end, though, they've notoriously been the side that play to the level of their opponents, which it can be a good and a bad thing. It's obviously nerve-wracking as a fan watching from home if you're going up against someone who you should be beating pretty comfortably and then end up in OTs or potentially, dropping maps and that kind of a thing versus them. But it also means that they do put up a pretty good fight versus the very best of them, and Astralis is one of those teams. So in that sense, that's a positive for the Swedes. One thing that has me a little bit worried, and you kind of alluded to it as well, on day one we didn't see the best performance out of Force and Rez, and historically during this 8-map win streak that Astralis have versus NiP, Force has been like very, very quiet, like uncharacteristically quiet, because he has been the one who's, pretty much been consistent out of all the NiP players. He's the one who's been able to actually perform even, at an old age. He's an old man now. And, I mean, they're going to need that. Like, he can't have another, bomb-out game versus Astralis if they're going to have any shot of him, at least getting to a third map, I think. Because, the rest of the NiP players haven't been playing well enough to really make that happen on their own.
Well, definitely. I mean, what do you think the kind of approach for them is going to be coming into this? Now we know the maps. What do you think they have been prepared for that particularly?
I would hope so. I think that there's probably a lot of stock put in them potentially picking Nuke. It's either going to be Nuke or Inferno, right? You should know that if you were NiP. Their map choice would be based off of what Havel was saying. It's a relatively good map for NiP, and one that weakness has been shown on for Astralis, but we don't know what Astralis have worked on. That's the problem, right? Anybody playing them is going into the dark. Now, Nuke might have been one that they were just resting on because they had such a good history, and they thought maybe we don't need to tune that one up as much. The two that I would have been looking towards fixing would have been that of Overpass and Mirage, and adding more and more to your arsenal. But they should be prepared for this. It's just NiP is the team who I've always set with the liner, like they're the baseline, or they're the gatekeepers to the top 10. Or they have everything you want, but they don't have anything that excites me. And the reason I say that is they don't really have any crazy young stars other than Rez would be the only one I'd look towards to be, you know.
At times.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Forrest, as you mentioned, he's a legend of the game, but he's reaching that point now where he can have a big impact, but he's not going to change. He's not a Zywoo, right?
No,
you know,
exactly.
He's not. He doesn't feel like he is Swedish Counter-Strike. He doesn't feel like he can carry Swedish Counter-Strike through to the future anymore. Yeah. And then the other parts of this team, they all do their job, but it's not in a hugely exciting manner, right? And it's something which is disappointing to not be able to get excited about when you have the name like NiP. But if you're a team right now, it's very difficult for everybody to want to be first. I think at some point you just have to be like, oh, we're happy being a top 10 team. You know, we're happy, you know, with fifth in the world. Your goals and expectations need to change. But I guess every match you come into, you want to win. And this one right here, I don't think it's a defining moment for NiP by any means, whereas it is actually a defining moment for Astralis and what we're going to see out of them coming forward over these next couple of months.
Well, definitely. I mean, and the fact that they are in this predicament at the moment, they are in an elimination stage on day 2. We didn't expect that at all.
No, I mean, I think, you know, you could have been perfectly fine seeing this as a, you know, yesterday's matchup to take you into semifinals, right, instead of an elimination game. So, yeah, brackets have been turned on its head, but that's kind of how the cookie crumbles sometimes. And I think it's, if anything, I mean, you know, it should light a fire under the feet of both teams to really put up the best.
Oh, they're testing chairs. I have a different screen up than all of you at home.
Oh yeah, you were thinking like
Glaive and Device had just swapped chairs, and I thought, oh no,
oh no, not again.
Oh no, it's all the Glaive looked like he's taking one for the team here, so his star player can be comfortable.
Taking the shaky.
I used to do that all the time. Like when we played at LANs and there wasn't enough room, like I'd play with the keyboard on my lap so that everyone else could have room and all that kind of nonsense.
Take one for the team.
It's what you have to do. You know, you've got to stand up and take all the sacrifices, and then if you lose, you're the one that still gets the blame because you're the one calling all the shots. So it's a lose-lose situation out there being the leader.
Exactly. I mean, we were just chatting beforehand before we had the map veto in, and we were mentioning Vertigo, right? The infamous map. Now, was there any kind of thought in your mind that this may sneak into this?
I think if there's any other opponent than NiP, I think Astralis would have floated it.
Yeah, Fury is a chance in a best of 3 where we might actually see if Astralis win this one. Actually, so it might come in later in the day. But NiP, just based off of what they were banning in Dallas, it felt like it was a no-go zone. I think the reason for that as well, for a lot of teams not wanting to pick it right now, is it hasn't settled. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of adjustments to the map still. And the problem there is it's a catch-22. If the professional teams don't play it, then we can't see the massive flaws, and then we can't fix them. So teams are and Valve are going to make a lot of their decisions based off of matchmaking games if they don't get, you know, a decent dialogue. So that is a bit of a problem. But maybe later in the day, because we didn't see it in Dallas. I feel there is an opportunity to see it here. Somebody like Furia, why not? Why the hell not, right? Why the hell not take the risk on it?
I mean, yeah, they don't really have the same, I guess, they don't have the same fall height as many of the other teams in terms of like floating that map into their map pool, because they're a pretty significant underdog coming into this tournament. So I think for teams that with pretty hefty, you know, travel schedule and so on, it's hard to really try to, I guess, specialize in a map that's new coming into the map pool. Simply because of lack of practice time, but also because it's an ever-evolving thing. As you mentioned, it's going to be changes happening. I mean, we saw teams practicing Vertigo, picking it up immediately on release, and then obviously having the changes happen to the A-bomb site, which changes, you know, both aggressive and defensive smokes, how you want to set up positions all of a sudden become completely irrelevant or just non-existent from that point on. And then you have to go back to the drawing board, and with limited time, you're not going to get a good result out of that. So that's probably why we're seeing a lot of these teams not necessarily dive into it just yet, but again, it's a bit of a catch-22, as Chad said, because you need that data as well in order to improve the map. But it's a marathon in that sense. Overpass didn't start out as a, I guess, competitive map by any means. That was a terrible map when it first released, and with time, you know, over the course of a year, we did end up with the final version, more or less, which ended up being a pretty good competitive map.
One of the better maps in the pool at the moment, I would say.
Well, exactly. Well, we've had time to speculate what is going to happen in this game, but we've got to get into predictions. However, I'm going to start with you.
I'm not going to be bold. I'm not going to be brave.
No bravery today?
Yeah, I'm going to side with the Danes, Astralis. I have to imagine that, or I have to believe, just for my own sake, that yesterday was a bit of a fluke. It was them, again, struggling with ring rust. Like, normally they wouldn't lose to Furia, and I don't think they're going to lose to NiP in a best of 3 series.
Think it's going to be 2-0?
I'm thinking it's going to be 2-0.
Okay.
Okay. As much as I would love to be able to get behind the storyline for the Ninjas, I think that I'm going to put stock in Astralis one last time. Today will be the last of me believing.
If they go out, you don't really have another chance.
Today will be my last of believing that there is hope still, and it was just an off day. I think NiP have a few more issues right now going on than what Astralis actually do, even though one is under a lot more scrutiny than the other. So I'm going to side with Astralis.
Yeah, I think I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I imagine it's probably going to be reds all across the board there for us. Let's see what
Sliggy
Sliggy's
feeling spicy.
Yeah, there we go. Going to go for the safe option. And let's have a look at our user predictions as well, because this is going to be quite interesting. 2 Scandinavian teams. Are we going to see a bit of a disparity in? No?
I'm actually
quite even.
I'm actually surprised by this.
Yeah. I did a poll, and I had about 300 votes, so mine was quite similar to that.
Yeah?
Yeah, that probably has a lot more votes than what I was able to garner.
Might have a fair few.
Yeah, a fair few more. But I think that a lot of the people who are predicting NiP in this situation are probably just hating on Astralis at the moment.
Yeah,
because realistically, that should be weighted quite heavily in the other direction. I think the odds will actually show that.
Yeah, well, yeah, let's take a look at odds. Yes, there we go. A lot more heavily.
They're a bit more
favoured.
reasonable.
But yeah, I think that's a good point, actually. You kind of, people love to see the greats fall, right?
Yeah.
Especially in a situation like this. It would be an interesting storyline, as you said.
It is kind of funny, like how things change, because at one point everyone was getting bored of Counter-Strike because Astralis was winning everything, and now it's like, well, now they're not showing up for anything anymore, and now you hate them for that reason.
Yeah.
Like, you can't really win.
Yes, but I had a 45-minute long discussion with Jacob about this whole situation. It's a culmination of a lot of issues as to why it's quite easy just to make Astralis and paint them on the wall as the villain, right?
Yep.
The thing that frustrates me the most as somebody who loves to watch Counter-Strike is just not getting the opportunity to watch the best team play Counter-Strike time and time again and continue to elevate that bar.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping they have another gear here. I'm hoping, that we've already seen the full 5. Hopefully they've got a 6, 7, 8 gear here in their vehicle to take us even further, because I would love to see what Glaive has come up with.
Well, I remember sitting with you at the Face It Major, and you were getting frustrated that people were saying they're a boring team to watch, because you were like, they play the most fundamentally beautiful Counter-Strike, right?
Yeah, and
they
that,
did.
Well, yeah, and that was what was great. But what's actually happened, I suppose, is they've shown everybody else the way. And everyone else has come on in, they've gone, well, the blueprint's here. Now we just need to follow the ABCs and take it even further than that. And with them taking time off, with them not competing as much, everyone else has been just grinding hard to catch up to them. And I think that other teams have. I think Liquid was one, Star Power, the way that they approach the game, all these bits and pieces. Ents as well have a fundamental base that's just as strong as that of Astralis's. There's teams now who are well and truly within striking distance, or could even be better, and we have to wait and see what happens over these next few months.
Well, of course, you guys can get access to our Premium Pass on Twitch. If you're subscribed to the Face It Twitch channel, you have access to the Premium Pass already, so definitely go and check that out. You get 10 player POVs, so you can basically be your own observer. You get access to an interactive minimap, and we have some lovely stats on there as well. And every desk segment, we're going to be doing our Premium Pass picks. So if you're watching with the Premium Pass, our 2 lovely analysts are going to recommend who they think you should be watching. So who are you going to go with?
I've got
on
one
Astralis?
for all the budding AWPers out there who want to be the primary AWP for the team. This player you should be watching is Device, and it's very easy to explain why, but some of the little details that I want to point out is while you're watching him, you see he has the AWP, the situation gets a bit gritty, it gets a bit grimy, and he has to pick up a rifle. He'll always go for that option, which is the smart play. So if you want to be an AWPer, watch Device. He's got a lot of things to offer.
Well, exactly, and Device is on stream number 2. And who are you going for on the side of NiP?
I'm going to go with Forrest, and again, for similar reasons, actually.
Okay.
Again, it is the mechanical side of it. Again, just being able to be calm in every sort of situation, and also because of the added factor that he hasn't been performing well versus Astralis specifically, and I think for them to have success, he needs to be a big factor, and that makes it all the more exciting to see his POV.
To see him
Exactly.
potentially fail.
Yeah,
Well,
wow.
no, I'm thinking positive. I'm thinking about,
So we're
seeing him
thinking,
succeed.
Success on number 2 stream, failure on number 7 stream. Is that what we're going for?
I mean, that's what Chad's going for, apparently. I'm expecting big things out of Forrest. I'm hoping for big things at
Well,
least.
there are 2 recommendations for watching with the Premium Pass if you have access. If you don't at the moment, definitely go and check that out. But I think all that's left to say is let's head over to the lovely James and Dan to get into match number 1.
Thank you very much, Freya. It's going to be a really interesting one, James, because we have signs of weakness from Astralis. Now going into Inferno, I feel like it's... I still can't see it, James. I can't see Astralis being toppled by NiP, not right now.
No, I think we've enjoyed how NiP have looked in the online season. They've looked strong, but Astralis are Astralis, so I think it's hard to pick against them, even in the current situation, having lost their match to Furia. That's only a short-term result, really. For the Premium Pass, I'd have to pick Zipex. You guys know, if Astralis are on a server, then Zipex is always my pick, because I feel like people at home can learn the most from him. I think he's a man with strong fundamentals, and if you pick somebody like Simple, it's going to be hard for people at home to emulate what he's doing. But I think Zipex, in terms of just putting yourself in a position to have the best result, especially on the CT side, he's a great example of that. So plenty to learn if you watch his POV, and I feel like if you watch one person's POV for an entire match and keep an eye on a radar and see how people react to information across the map. So even if, like, he's on B and all the actions towards A, seeing how they react to the information that they're receiving from their teammates is important as well. So that is all something to be considered. We've got the team huddle. Now these guys are about, I mean, this is a big arena. These guys are about 50 meters or perhaps a little more, maybe even 100 meters away from us.
How many feet is that, James?
About multiplied by 3.
Nice.
I know that because I need to know it for diving. Yeah, I suppose.
Nice.
Yeah, because I dive in pretty much everywhere. I have to know both these days. But there's a lot of shouting to be done. So if we hear the battle cries from Zonic, trust me, it'll be coming into Warriors as well. So this is going to be a very interesting matchup. Get Right's going to be doing a lot of talking for Ninjas in Pajamas, which is really cool to see.
Yeah, so he's apparently, according to Nico, we saw on Twitter about 30 minutes ago, apparently he's been leading the team for NiP for a little while now. So didn't realize that personally, but yeah, he's sitting in the middle. He's been doing the veto with Pitta. So anyway, we are into it. NiP on the T side. Inferno is a classic map. Every top level Swedish team can play it. NiP being part of so many historic Inferno matches. However, Astralis has always been just such an indomitable force here. So I'm curious if NiP can get off to a good start. They're pretty spread out right now. You feel like they're just keep putting the feelers out there, trying to get the information, see if Astralis are doing anything untowards. And everything's toward James. So now they're getting the bomb and moving toward the A bomb site themselves. There are 3 players for Astralis ready and waiting.
Get Right's the utility man. He looks like he's about to deploy a smoke grenade. Kevlar for the rest of the squad. So there's a smoke to isolate some players towards the arch position, I think. Indeed it is. Library has been separated. Rez will go for the 1 versus 1, very easily taken care of by Device, and Magis will be hitting the first bullet as well. Headshots galore as far as Astralis are concerned. Ninjas in Pajamas have a lot to do with Dennis. Now, he's a man who we used to talk about a lot with pistols, but this is a really bad situation. Now they know where he is. Crossfire is pretty much guaranteed. It's 1 versus 4, and he may be peeking into 2 or 3 players at the same time. See the off angles being held. Trying to engage someone. He wants a 1 versus 1. He's about to get one. Zipex is low, gets taken out, but there is the trade. Abusing numbers advantage, and Astralis take the pistol.
That looks a little bit too easy for Astralis, didn't it? Just sitting back, popping heads. Really good stuff from them.
Sometimes it'd be that way. Sometimes it'd be like that.
Yep, it's true. Very nice. Okay, so smooth start for Astralis. Not really all that way. Well, can't be said the same for NiP, I should say. And I think a force buy is very unlikely here for NiP. I think we will see that full save. I'm very curious how the banana dynamic will go in this matchup, just because obviously Astralis are so strong at gaining banana control, and one of those and you can't just say, okay, well, Astralis are really good at it, so we're just not going to contest it and just give it up. You have to fight for it at least some of the time. So I'm curious if NiP will be able to get any mileage with the battle on banana, because you cannot allow Astralis just to have the map. You just can't do it. You've got to actually pressure away the map. Otherwise, they'll just be working with too many advantages. But as mentioned, just the Glocks and a Deagle here for NiP. Dennis on that Deagle. There he is. Oh, no.
Oh, yes. No. Oh, no. You saw how Device was spotted jiggling the corner, immediately moved to the right-hand side, as I think it was Dennis who was jiggling as well, playing the off angle, looking to avoid getting pre-fired. Ding-dong with the Glock, not enough from that range. Often the Glock needs 3 shots to the head to kill a player with a helmet. Glocks can really suck. And then there were 2. Glaive can fall back into a safer position, as can Device. Leaves the high health players to peek first. 2-man set up towards Arch. The Deagle has been collected. So, again, the Deagle's the only real investment in this round for Ninjas in Pajamas, but 1 frag, and that's like $3,000–4,000 in damage. So they will try to squeeze everything out of this that they can. And you need to against Astralis. Astralis will give you nothing in most cases. So you must try to force everything you can, because it's all about the long game. Every frag counts. 19 seconds, and now we get to a point where the pressure is on for Ninjas in Pyjamas to simply be fragged. They need their loss bonus. There are the kills, and it's 2-0 for Astralis. No one is lost. Patient start for the Danes. So far, so good.
Yeah, all according to plan after the pistol. So now the buy will come in from NiP.
Popcorn.
And I mentioned the Battle of Bananas. I don't know that NiP will be all that interested in going for it this round. And one of the reasons is because... Oh, actually, no, Get Right should be able to get full utility as well. So they should be able to have mostly full utility. They are lacking some of the Molotovs that they may need, so that would probably discourage them from challenging too much on Banana. You can see that that's just an advantage Astralis are just going to have. They just have more utility here, and they've got 3 players starting at Banana at the beginning of the round, as often we will see for CT sides for the extra utility. And now Astralis have they have better map control. They will soon have full vision of Banana. So NiP must take top middle, and it must be successful.
Dupree could get caught, and he will eliminate it immediately by Get Right. One shot to the head and dead. 3 players moving up the arch position, but they've got an Orc to deal with. Magisk with the scope, resetting the situation, moving around double stack at long range. Good for 3 kills. Marvelous hold from him. Dennis and Forest remain 2 versus 3. Still some advantages because they're up against SMGs in their entirety. Astralis must be careful if they look to swap a weapon out. Now the pit has been taken control of. There are no smokes here for the T side. Then it's very well positioned, but maybe took too much damage. 8 HP now in his 2 versus 2.
He does have Forest alive with him though, who is full on HP. But with the lack of utility, that's slightly annoying. However, the site does offer a lot of coverage. Oh, very important 1v1 there for Forest, but he'll lose it against the UMP. That is very unfortunate. You feel like Forest with an AK-47 coming out of the pit position, no less, should be a surefire victory, but no. NiP will go down 3 rounds now. And this performance from Magisk, the 3 kills, that seems like it was just slightly too much for NiP to deal with. The Aug is so good at those spots. That was already a strong position, that headshot position, James, but now with the Aug and the scope and stuff, it's even more consistent.
Completely agree. The Aug has really changed the game.
Yeah.
In terms of defenses, multi-frags. Really hard to deal with, it seems. Can't identify where a player is very, very quickly. Your comms have got to be on point against these Augs. The armor penetration is sublime. And NiP back to pistols. More dangerous than the 1 Deagle we saw previously. 3 Deagles and 2 CZ75s. Make it 2. NiP cut to pieces very quickly. Get Right's got some Kevlar, but no one's taken any damage yet for Astralis. Got a flashbang in there, not perfect range. Oh, okay. He will get something out of it, and that's worthwhile. Yeah, $5,700 nice. Spent by device, and he's got to rebuy everything.
So it doesn't look great for NiP so far, just because they lost. They got wiped out flawlessly pretty much from the pistol. They had a full eco right after that. That's already 2 of the 4 rounds we've seen. So we've only really seen like 1 proper buy round until now. So I don't think anyone should be all that alarmed just yet. This will be the first round in which NiP could even possibly decide to challenge Banana if they wanted, because finally they have utility. Here we go. We got the Molotov pretty deep there as we see Dennis charging up. And a much more passive approach here from Astralis. Wow, what a shot there. Device connecting onto Lekro. He takes one in the head as well, which is pretty phenomenal. I would imagine that Lekro must have shot him through the apartments for him to still be alive. So pretty cool to see a peek like that from Device though, in towards second mid. But now NiP have apartments control, and it looks like they're going to go towards B, leaving Get Right lurking towards Boiler. Pretty standard stuff here for Inferno. And considering that they've denied a lot of information from Astralis don't know what's going on. So they're actually rotating Glaive back towards A.
Soon they will, though. I feel like Glaive is inclined to peek the arch position once that smoke goes, which you can see on the radar. There is a peek from Forest, no flash, and that makes it very easy for Device because Forest is closer to the corner of engagement, so he will be showing to Device first. And I think the bomb is in an exposed position as well, but that flashbang is absolutely perfect. Horrible timing for Device, and now there's an opportunity. However, Glaive spray through the smoke. Oh boy. I wonder these days if Astralis and Smokes are more infamous than some other people of the past. 5-0, and Ninjas in Pyjamas, nothing doing just yet. Lekro and Rez haven't got any frags just yet. Forest on 1. So there's plenty of money to be made by Astralis, especially in a round such as this. Tactical timeout from Ninjas in Pyjamas. I mean, that's an unfortunate situation. Ooh, that's a big peek from Lekro. Yeah, so again, Forest is so close to that corner that Device will have an opportunity. The raw peek there is quite a risky one if a sniper is towards the B-bomb site.
And that's the thing as well. You kind of want to, like, one of the reasons why you might not want to flash is because, especially when you have the AWP entry fragging, is just because you don't want the player on the other end to kind of disappear. You want Forest to be able to just peek out and take the contacts and hit the shot, as opposed to flashing that player back and then still having to deal with somebody on the site. Might be that might be the reason why they didn't flash. However, Device is pretty damn consistent, so there goes a quick banana push. The nade's actually doing some good damage. Glaive needs to hold on by himself for a moment. The push, or rather, sorry, the rotation is coming quite quickly, but Glaive is more than enough for this one. He's off to a fantastic start, James. He's 12-0 already.
Not too shabby at all. That really was a devastating multi-spray through the smoke previously, but now he's got his 1 on the board as he gets taken out by Get Right. 2 kills for Ninjas in Pyjamas. So again, it helps for the long term. It helps. That is about $12,000 worth of damage. And a solid 6-0 for Astralis. Ninjas in Pyjamas back on the buy. Didn't get the bomb plant for the bonus money, which again would help long term, but they're on the buy anyway. It was an eco run previously. Now let's see if they can turn things around versus the 5 scopes on the Astralis squad. 5 AKs for Ninjas in Pyjamas. Plenty of utility as well. The utility is displayed in order of purchase. I know some OCD types will want them all to be all the Molotovs in a line together and so on. But they are displayed in order of purchase. So Ninjas in Pyjamas with a focus. Oh, they're going to have a burst. I think Forrest is going to throw a pop flash for his teammates. Dupree will avoid it though, but he can't avoid 3 players going through the smoke. A complete change of pace by Ninjas in Pyjamas.
Yeah, this is really nice. I like how NiP are working with the basics here. And the good frag onto Magus, but Device from the pit position might be troublesome to deal with. How do they get rid of him? Molotov will help, but the smoke is there to answer it, as Device now can dodge around and be an absolute nuisance. If he can find any more picks from this position, that will be terrifying. And they know that he's there still, and they will get the bomb down regardless. As Device goes for the peaks, hits the legs of Forest. Now down to Glaive, who so far has been having a great game, but Rez gets on the board with his first kill. Very nicely done, and it's the first round for NiP. It's 1-6. But I have to say, James, I feel like even though it's not been that successful so far for NiP, I feel like they're playing some really good basics on Inferno. I feel like it's just difficult against Astralis.
Most things are difficult against Astralis. Now let's see if they can get that consecutive round. With the damage they did here and there, the odd frag, Ninjas in Pyjamas, they could potentially put Astralis in an eco situation very, very soon if they can get a consecutive round. Big if. And it would need to be by elimination in most cases. Some harassment through the thin walls, the cheap plaster, will help Ninjas in Pyjamas move through the apartments. Oh, I'm sure Dupree spotted these players, but he isn't good for the frag on this occasion. Magisk is, however, he's got support. We've got the his teammate falling back from short as Device, but he's back straight up in time to catch Dennis off guard. NiP trying to capitalize on an opportunity. It looks like they see windows of opportunity, and they're looking to really capitalize on those before Astralis can adjust. On that occasion, didn't quite work out for them, and now Astralis have the man advantage.
Yeah, that peek from Dennis looks pretty crazy. It's sad for NiP to almost throw away the 4 versus 4, as that is significantly easier than the 3 versus 4 they currently find themselves in, of course. And there's still some time on the clock, but they don't have any control towards Banana, so they're committed towards A, and this should be pretty pedestrian for the remainder of Astralis to defend. It's a good return from Forest, though. Difficult shot to hit. Time pressure now, as there's less than 30 seconds to get this bomb planted. more defensive efforts there from Device. Good shot from Lekro. He's alone. Two players to deal with. Another fantastic headshot coming in from Lekro. Glaive, last man standing, and up on the box he goes, but it's Glaive with the frag. Another one for Astralis.
Yeah, that was a key round where NiP could have broken Astralis, but the opportunity still arises because Astralis survived with very, very low numbers, well, the lowest number, and NiP can still buy. So there's a second opportunity for them to do the same, but they need to capitalize on it. You can see Astralis' loss bonus is at the minimum, so it's very important for the Swedes to be able to win this round. I think if there's a chance for Ninjas Pajamas to make Astralis uncomfortable, then maybe that's their way in. I think that was the play with Dennis rushing on short in the previous round. But it's a pretty hard job to do, especially consistently, as Astralis make it look easy on Banana. NiP caught completely off guard. Rez was not expecting that to happen. And there's no answer. There's no answer to that. You're smoked off. The map control has been taken by Astralis.
I like how they're keeping 2 players on Banana as well. You don't always want to send someone back. We can go into the reasons perhaps in a moment, as NiP now have top middle control, and Zipex is the watcher of Arch, but he'll be flashed. Oh, sorry, smoked off there on Library. There's not actually no flash. Okay, there's the flash. They go for the burst through the smoke. 2 kills, though. There's a fantastic result, just leaving Forest alive. A headshot position to deal with there towards the crawl space. Oh dear, this is not very fun, is it, for Forest, as he will try to work his way through the smoke. And there's not too much he can do. Glaive is just everywhere. 16 for 2. What a nuisance Glaive is being in this game so far. Only 9 rounds played, but he's decimating his opposition.
Yeah, it is completely wild what a trade frag is. Like, 1 frag for Astralis is worth how many frags for NiP? It's fractions. The entire team is wiped out and they only get 1 frag in response. Again, they had 2 opportunities to break Astralis and start the comeback. They failed on both occasions, and the score is 8-1. And Ninjas in Pajamas are in eco territory once again as the loss bonus continues to rise. There's a tactical timeout again for Ninjas in Pajamas at the moment, but this is a rough start. Those were 2 key rounds. Either one, if they had won, would have been potentially a dramatic change in scoreline. But Astralis have passed both tests.
And one of the problems for NiP is they're not finding their way onto any post plants. We haven't seen any rounds won by defuse or by detonation of the bombs. So it tells you that NiP are struggling to get through this map control portion.
Dan.
I know, it's okay. No one tell Henry. He would be quite triggered. But yeah, they're struggling to get past the map control portion of the sort of opening of the rounds and converting that into a bomb site take and a post plant. It's just not happening, and that's where the T's get advantage. Is truly is when you get a good post plant, some good positioning, and the clock is set onto the CTs for a retake. That's where you want to be.
I feel like there's a lot of paper rock scissors. And NiP are losing like every single one. For example, when they threw the round prior, when they threw the smokes towards Arch, and they didn't seem to be expecting a re-smoke off the Arch position by the CTs. Then they're trying to force their way through. There's a multi-frag with the AUG. They trade that kill, and then that's like the only kill of the round. With the Arch pick, there's no more success. It's crazy just how good Astralis are. Again, NiP, there's still, they could still get, let's say, 6 rounds out of this half. That's still a possibility. So, and a part of the importance in trying to get there is doing damage in rounds such as this, which is why they may go on for a while. It's important to try and squeeze out all these frags, and now they're in a winnable situation. They're picking up rifles. They've got Astralis out of position. So this could be very interesting indeed.
It's Lekro no less with the double dig entry frags. Good stuff from him, and NiP, they're off to the races. Finally in a post plant, and they are looking really good here. There is limited utility on Astralis. Plus a nice couple kills coming in for Dupree on the retake. Magic as well, just cutting them down. The numbers that they had, it was a 4 versus 3, and now they're all falling. Very unfortunate.
Look at the camera. Look at the camera. Look at Lekro on the camera. Like, never mind what's going on here. He's just like proper face palming pretty hard. I think this is, you can see the frustration. Look at the body language. Look at the body language. That is telling me more than I'm seeing on the camera. I mean, in the game right now.
Well, they're getting pretty fisted in the game as well, James. So I don't know what, I don't know what you. Great fragging there from Lekro. But yeah, 4 versus 3, and they just get wiped out. Yeah. Yeah, I think you always expect it to do way more there, and it's those 2 kills. I think Lekro, it really feels like Get-Ro's trading is trading him there because he's taking first contact.
I guess with those entries, you're in a very strong position. You've got the numbers, you've got the sight to pick up 2 rifles. So I think just having to watch the team lose the round after that, probably frustrating when you think, okay, this is we're back, guys. This is how we turn things around. But it's not quite the case. But again, they've done a lot of damage. So they're on the buy once more. So there's still that potential to get 6 rounds. They've had 2 chances to break Astralis. Maybe this is another one.
They're definitely going to be stronger on the... I mean, NiP is typically a stronger team on the CT side, on most CT sides. So, as you say, like if they can get to at least around the 5-round mark, they should be okay to still have a pretty damn competitive Inferno game. However, look at the amount of damage that NiP has received. Every single player has received pretty significant damage. That's not bad. Obviously, Astralis' utility usage, their play behind smokes is pretty excellent.
It's so awesome how far we've come in Counter-Strike just in terms of the usage of utility. I was about to say, well, a more successful push with a smoke on arch this time for Ninjas in Pyjamas, and it more or less is. It's 1-for-1, but they have more position in this. Last time they didn't get an opportunity to use it, but now they can wrap the B bomb site. Is the trade there? Apex falling off. Can't really fire his gun onto Rez, and now there's a chance. Forest, they know Forest is probably in CT, so there's not so much Astralis can do. You see the money, and this is where the problems are. These Magisk and Dupree are very likely resigned to saving in this situation to be able to put up a fight and stop the bleeding and the rounds to come. So, again, we saw some of these opportunities in previous rounds. They didn't work out for Ninjas in Pyjamas, but it's not too late in this half. And they've got just their 2nd round on the board on the way. Really rough start for Ninjas in Pyjamas against Astralis.
Yeah, this is the first round where they're actually getting just trades in the way that it's supposed to kind of work on the T side. Because in so many other rounds, it's like you said, they managed to get a kill, but then you look at sort of where the dust, like when the dust is settled, you look at what's left, and there's just no one left, because Astralis have just been getting so many multi-kills and denying trades altogether in a lot of spots. Some great entry work here from the players on NiP. I feel like this can be a difficult map for NiP sometimes. I feel like NiP on a map, the more open maps is when you can really get to see more play from the likes of, a Rez and a Forest and a Dennis. They get more space to sort of run around and do damage. You're going to see more consistently good results from them. But here you have to fight against the team play of Astralis, the utility usage and timings of Astralis, the many different CT setups from Astralis, which can be hard to predict. You got to fight against all of that before you can even get your players into spots where they can maybe get frags and take position on the map.
Rez has a lot of difficult positions to play, I think, which is quite interesting. The sheer amount of abuse he's exposed to, like on Banana, for example, trying to hold some map control for the team, on the CT side of Train, just getting naded constantly in Pop Dog and so on. Oh, he's just going to get his bow rung immediately by Glaive as well. That was absolutely disgusting. Yeah, he's got a tough task ahead of him. But he has Dennis there to have some position on Banana. In the meantime, there's just shy of a minute left for Ninjas in Pyjamas. They've taken top mid, so they've got Banana, they've got top mid, they've got denial of information. However, looking at the positions of Device and Dupree, the double Ds, it doesn't look like they will be staying in their positions for long. So I feel like they're going to soon get some information towards that top mid position. Dupree will be smoked off, but Device with the AWP, he might not be too shy to have a look towards shorts.
The smoke's going in, and Glaive is standing in front, very confident, but he'll have to back away due to the flash work of NiP. Zipex, though, looking for his moment to go in there. A Dupree with some spray through as well. And locked out by the utility of NiP. Ooh, that looked pretty close. will go down though. But look how few positions NiP have to stand in. They don't have construction. The only thing they really have is banana besides the bomb site, which is, and they have to hold on to that. But they could get smoked. Okay, there is no smoke to smoke off banana. So this looks really promising for NiP.
Yeah, this will be an interesting one. Get right, we'll have to change his position again, 22 HP. No real damaging grenades, just that one flashbang and away they go. So the crossfire could be very, very brutal for Astralis. And if they get wiped out here, then again, there's a lot of chance. That bomb's very far ticked as well, so it's about falling back here for Astralis. And they will manage to do that for the most part. But Dupree, will he survive? I'm not so sure. No, he was way too close to the bomb. So I guess he was trying to maybe take somebody with him, but that didn't quite happen. So I think may have been worth the risk to try and move away. But there we go, another round on the board. And now we've got more monetary pressure for Astralis, and this is exactly what NiP needed. This is why they took risks earlier, why they were kind of bouncing around that short position when they thought they had an opportunity. Didn't always work out for them, but again, they can still get 6 rounds on the board. And Astralis may take a tactical pause to try and figure out what to do, get the abacus out, figure out if we buy around what they have or what they will choose to do at this moment. Their round loss bonus absolutely sucks. So perhaps there is discussion to be had.
Yeah, finally back in the action. And, you know, with NiP, it did feel like they were playing, you know, again, pretty good basics on Inferno. Like, they're playing pretty well. The thing is, though, it's just very difficult against Astralis because they are the best in the business. I feel like it's still a little bit too soon to maybe, you know, write them off. You know, in that sense, obviously, they don't have quite the presence, I guess, that they had a couple months ago. But still, they are an incredibly good team, and it especially shows a map like this. Just looking to hold his ground at the top of Banana. He goes for the Y peak, but Dennis absolutely ready.
It's a stark difference, the approach to Banana, when your opponent has a lot less money and they don't have really the utility to hold as they normally do. Again, if you're looking at the scoreboard, it doesn't really tell the whole story if you look at like Rez 2 for 10. If you look at what has been asked of him to try and have some presence towards Banana so you're not completely choked off against the arguably the best team in the world at this point. That is a very, very tall order, but here they are. Again, they've managed to break that money. Now they've only got really an AWP to deal with. Although Glaive's on a deagle as well. He's 19 for 5, so who knows? Maybe he's feeling it. NiP will wait out the smokes, I think. They've got Lecro in mid, keeping the opponent honest. Nothing crazy happening for the CTs. They wait.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Now we say like arguably the best team in the world, as they no longer have the #1 spot in HLTV anymore. But at the same time, the context around it creates questions. So, and that can only really be answered with some time. It's a nice shot from Glaive. Is it small consolation? Perhaps it is, because the B-bomb side is completely open and there's not too much they can do to get it back in there.
Yeah, the Zipex and Glaive just ran up Speedway, and Forrest was behind the sandbags deep in the corner. And from that position, you can hear CTs running up Speedway, which is often why if you see a rotation from CTs from A to B, or vice versa, if they're on Speedway, they're often walking because they don't want to give that information away, or they're running around the long way through the spawn area. But in this case, it doesn't really matter because they're on eco and they only have got pistols anyway. The important weapons are away from B, the AWP and the AK collected by Dupree to be taken into the next rounds. But here's 4 on the board for Ninjas in Pajamas, and the money still sucks for Astralis. So again, 6 rounds, as rough as the rounds have looked that Astralis have won, as rough as they've looked for Ninjas in Pajamas. Once you break the money, you don't have that utility to hold on to Banana, to put Rez in a corner where he can't really move and then just pop him in the head with an M4. Then things can change dramatically.
It's pretty amazing that Glaive is 20 for 6, I must say. And yesterday we had a 24 and 3 for Cold Zero on his first half in
look what happened in that
Inferno.
match.
And that was I believe a 12-3. Was it 12-3? First half?
I don't want to talk
was.
about that match.
Yeah.
It went on for a very, very long time.
What I'm saying is I feel like Glaive is performing better in a more difficult match. Or first half at the very least.
Lucky to get away with that. Slightly too far, those HEs. Nice idea, though, from Ninjas in Pajamas. The third man towards B will rotate back towards A, Dupree, with half his health. Again, there's more utility for Astralis, but they have... Maybe it's going to be a slow take, but that smoke up the top is going to be very important. Glaive spraying, and that's going to cost him. Zipex is in a vulnerable position as well, but of course it's Rez to try and make a difference and get taken out. 4 versus 3 though, it's working out for Ninjas in Pyjamas. There's plenty of time on the clock, and Astralis are very, very stretched at this point. Yeah, they may have to consider their options now for the next round.
Yes, it finally it feels like something's gone right for NiP here. They've managed to find themselves on the right end of the fortune. Getting a spray kill through the smoke, through the woods, top banana for the second kill on banana, and they just cut noise. And this is really cool because sometimes you may think, oh, why don't they just run into the site? They don't know if it's the case that Astralis had an extra player on the bomb site. They don't want to rush things. They have a man advantage situation working for them in Device, whipping that shot. Going with the second one though, does he go in for more? Will be smoked back, and Magis will creep forwards. There's a gap in that smoke. I don't know if that's going to be... Yeah, Magic's going to abuse this. Going to go straight through it, but Forest has him covered.
1 versus 2 for Device. Walking into a crossfire. Drop the flash, that will be heard. Now they know exactly where he is. He's got the chain flash with him, but he's doing the best he can. Oh, Dennis is trying to flank him, and that's a crossfire not working out, but Forest will get the final frag. Really important that they managed to get that NiP, and now they look pretty damn good for a 6th round. By no means is it guaranteed. Device has the money for an AWP. There's an AUG for Dupree, but there's not much behind that.
Yeah, good work there from NiP in that round. And UMP is out for Astralis. I think this is one of the maps where the UMP is you might pick it in certain spots on the CT side over the MP9. Nice with the opening pick there of the Forest, finding him down middle. And you talked about 6 rounds, and it might very well be possible still here for NiP, which would be quite surprising to imagine, considering how they were getting blasted in the first 8-9 rounds. There it is, Glaive, using that UMP to full effect, close range on banana. And that's the problem. You don't know how many people, like what Astralis are doing behind the banana smokes. And Magis finds his way out of boiler into 1. Almost a chance at a second. Rez and Get right now with so much to deal with. This is just falling apart.
Tall order indeed for Rez. another rough situation for him, and it doesn't quite work out. That is 5 rounds for Ninjas in Pyjamas at half-time. They will move to the CT half after this break.
And we're back. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Astralis and NiP faced off in this best of 3, the opening best of 3 of day 2 at the ECS 7 finals here at Wembley. And things aren't looking great for NiP, but honestly, it looks like it could have been a lot worse. They managed to scrape together 5 rounds in their first half. I think for me, James, and for you, we both feel like that's a good spot. That's as good of a spot that we could ask for NiP, considering the context of that first half.
Yeah, I think it's, again, they had a few chances to make a difference and they finally managed to do that. And NiP trying to sneak down mid, got caught as they walked into the bench. Unfortunate timing for them. They don't want to lose both these pistols. That would be somewhat disastrous, especially against Astralis. Rez still making his way down. I don't think he was detected, it seems. Oh, no, Glaive looking at a 6 now. I think he's going to see him just about. Rez trying to make a play, but it's all about these headshots. A P250 for Dupree. It's not often that you see a P250 on the T side of Inferno. A lot of closer ranges, so I think many teams will prefer everyone to have Kevlar or grenades, but here is one for Dupree. It's done the job so far. One headshot for him, and this is looking really bad. It may be a short game of Inferno if NiP lose this pistol. Pistol rounds don't have the implications that they used to have, but for Astralis to win both pistols, I think, still has strong implications.
Yeah, I like how Device baited out Forest for the peak, sort of outmaneuvered him, committed him to a wide swing. And you may think, what does that mean? Sometimes the way that you're moving in these engagements around cover, if the other person's looking for the engagement, and in that case Forest was, they're down players, you need to find a 1v1, and you need to confidently take it and win it, and that's just a play that you have to make. And so I think Device kind of was able to sort of suggest that he was going to keep taking that fight, and then Forest was pushed into the open with a swing. Dennis able to trade 1 kill back, but it's more about money than anything else at this point for Dennis, picking up some extra kills, but he'll only be the 1, and I think that was the case in the first pistol round as well. NiP unable to really get any damage done, so it's a pretty rough spot because you're kind of encouraged to go for the full save in this position for NiP. There's a strong argument to do it, and on Inferno you don't want that to be the case. You kind of want to force buy, honestly, because if you lose the pistol, you want to... I mean, it's one of the strongest maps for a CT force buy, firstly, because the value of smokes, CZs and so on, how effective they can be around the architecture of the map, but ultimately, if they have this full save and then they buy the next round, they're not going to have as much utility to take Banana aggressively. Having an AWP with Kevlar, with grenades is going to be, well, it's not going to be possible. So you're kind of handicapping yourself, and so it's a horrible position to find yourself in. And NiP have it all working against them right now.
Ooh. Not bad. Not a bad start. They have position on the entire site, so should be a formality. Lots of SMGs to make some bonus money with. Okay. That kind of sucks with Zipex. A little extra money for Get Right. Not a whole lot of money to be made here for NiP unless they somehow got a knife kill. Glaive and Device below though, so maybe there are more kills to be had. Maybe not. Lecro, there's a fair chance he catches something, but again, it's relatively inconsequential. The T side, you don't have the monetary pressures of the CT side. Won't be too concerned with the SMGs and so on, and they're making those juicy kill bonuses. 12-5 for Astralis, and the game starts on this second half. So a hell of a lot of pressure for Ninjas in Pyjamas. They need to break the money quickly for Astralis. And if they can do that, then they could get 8 rounds on the board fairly promptly. But that is definitely easier said than done. Even with all these SMGs, Astralis will be looking to outposition their opponents and just generally outplay them.
And it's really sad as well when you're in NiP here, because you have to spend the $4,000 on getting helmets if you can, because even though you need utility desperately, there's a bunch of SMGs out in the field, and you want to, if you're going to get a lot of firepower, you really need to protect it. And I like this. Get Right's playing aggressively. They can't really give up Banana despite the low amount of utility. They kind of have to just make it work, and they try, but it's failed. It has failed enormously. And that's, oh my god, what a peek from Glaive with the FAMAS. Oh man. And that's the round over. And I was wondering actually that there is an argument to see more FAMAS on NiP just so that they can have more utility. And perhaps with more utility, they'll be able to have more success in a round such as this. It is a map that really is impossibly hard to play the CT side with low utility. You need to have maximum utility. They're going to try to protect these guns, but with the SMGs, there is very little for Astralis to worry about in terms of what they give up here. They can absolutely just commit almost all their players to hunt down the remainder of NiP, of which it's just Dennis now with the York, and he's got 70 players in his face, and that's going to be that. So just as you said, James, a really rough start for NiP. Could be a quick one on map 1.
Yeah, it's a long road to recovery. It's a very long road, and the wheel has not been invented yet. It's going to take a while. A few pistols here and there for Ninjas in Pyjamas, but it is a cold start so far on Inferno. 4 players will head towards A for Ninjas in Pyjamas. In the meantime, Astralis will clear out the banana area. Bit by bit, we can see how this is what's of interest in this particular round is how Astralis use utility and personnel and numbers to have the safest approach possible to an area. On this occasion, it's the B bomb site. We see that GetRight's got a counter smoke grenade to try and deter Astralis, to ruin the timing. Device is already ahead. He's vulnerable to a USP shot now with 3 HP, so he'll want to stay deep in the sights to protect the AK-47 that he's holding. Zipek's moving up for a coffin's plant, so planting that way leaves you less vulnerable to spray from the coffin's position, from behind the coffin's position, if you had like a smoke up in construction or something. So that's the main focus in rounds such as this. But it will be 14-5.
Yeah, really easy opening for Astralis. As you say, with the victory of the pistol, it's pretty impactful still, just due to the fact that starting with the initiative, or the easy initiative, and again, these harder decisions that NiP have had to have made with their economy makes things pretty awkward off the get-go for them. Finally, they're going to have, I mean, this is the crazy thing, is that NiP will have one chance now with, effectively, because this is the only good buy that we're going to see from them if they are unsuccessful here. So it's got to come. This has to be a success. It's got to come down to this. I'm curious whether we'll see Electro take any particularly aggressive peaks, if they'll go for some sort of a Hail Mary, or if they'll just try to play this as normal as possible. You'll see 3 opening things up towards Banana, as is typical for this this map on the CT side. Extra utility early on for the Banana defense or offense, as the case may be. And you see Astralis fighting for it. And really just basic, look how much utility has been baited out here as well from Astralis, and look how much they're sitting on versus what they've forced out from NiP. NiP have committed a huge amount of utility to control Banana. If Astralis come in with 1 flash in about 30 seconds, they've probably undone all that work from NiP with 1 flashbang.
Just over a minute on the clock for Astralis. Do NiP feel inclined to try and take the game away from Astralis with some good timing? We saw, oh, that's not a good start for Zipek, a rare miss from him. We saw some success from Furia on Nuke with their aggressive smoke in the lobby, which kind of put Astralis out of sorts. It might be more difficult to do that on Inferno. As you can see, there is a take of the top mid position. 40 seconds remaining. Now, we've still got Rez spotting Banana, but GetRight's gone back to Banana even though he hasn't seen anything. And indeed, it seems like Astralis want to at least show the bomb over there. We've got Glaive and Device. Glaive with 12 HP, poking towards the Banana position. So this could be very, very interesting, but there's still action towards that A bomb site, and it seems that Magisk will be sacrificed, although he's still managing to take people with him at the moment, clearing out the A site, but here comes a procession. 10 seconds, Rez, all he needs to do is take out the bomb planter, and he will probably win the round, as long as Get Right survives, but he's going for Zipex instead. He just got to play for the beeps, and surely the round is won. Get the bomb rolling on the floor, and I think there's a round win there. But here we are. We've got to Get Right now in a 1 versus 3. Glaive doing some Super Mario Brothers, but this is the wrong game, buddy. And now maybe there's a chance for Get Right.
Yeah, there's 3 kills already for Get Right. Needs 2 more. There's no utility to work with, so that's pretty tough. And he's just holding this. And that's, I mean, there's no options for him there. It's really difficult. And that'll be the first, or rather I should say it's, well, the first of many match points for, or game points for Astralis. But we know, we'll talk about selling a fake, just kill everyone there. that's how you do it.
I don't know if there was awareness with the clock, but I really feel like, or maybe he thought the player to his right was closer, but I really feel like all you need to do in that situation, as long as Get Right is safe and he can hide somewhere, wait for the plant, take out the planter. There's probably not enough time to pick up the bomb and plant it again, or maybe it's very close, but either way, that's how you're going to win that round. Otherwise, you're going to lose the round, basically, and be at game points.
NiP this time have had to go down to FAMAS to try to have more utility, and you Get Right with a respectable rifle. Though I shouldn't disparage the FAMAS. I'm a fan most of the time. You can see that Astralis is just waiting for the pushes. They know that NiP are in a desperate spot, and they're taking full advantage of that. So now that there's a minute left and 2 picks have been made, Astralis can start to think about coming together as a team to ferry that bomb towards a planting position. A and B are still both great options at this point. Doesn't really matter where they go, honestly. As long as they do it together, they'll be fine. And there's a quick pop flash play, and another frag unanswered by Astralis. And this is the slowest of bleeds. But NiP will be bleeding out. However, there is still play in this series, of course. This is just the first map. But this is not a great start for NiP.
Good thing it's best of 3. Rez now is dead. And that is a solid game of Inferno as far as Astralis are concerned. A dominating scoreline and many dominating rounds as well. NiP had a few chances to bring it back in the first half, missed a few, but they did get some rounds on the board, but no rounds in that second half. Solid stuff for Astralis. Thoughts from Freya and the desk after this break.
There's a warning on the back of this love. Take a little and you can't get enough. It's a devil's game, but I just can't give it up.
Nobody's gonna hold your hand when it comes to healing. Nobody's gonna understand why you still feel the way you do. Even on my lonely days, I know that I am still loved. It's pretty often that I feel I just don't fit in, and that's okay, 'cause everybody's different, and not everything works out. Sometimes I just need to step back.
Welcome back to the ECS Season 7 Finals, where before the break, we saw the Danes in red take the first map in this Scandinavian showdown. And it's safe to say it's kind of what we were expecting, right, guys?
Easy. That was very easy, wasn't it?
This was what I was expecting from Astralis yesterday.
Yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. So slow start.
It's a day late.
Yeah, but still in the running. So all things good.
There was a tweet from Peter from HLTV.org that said that was the first time that Astralis have lost in the opening round of a tournament. So that was the first time they were facing elimination in last place.
Wow.
So we haven't won yet, but it feels like they're going to avoid that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just looking at the scoreboard as well, we can hopefully bring that up. But really standout performances, especially up there from Glaive. 26 kills on his 24th birthday. So yeah, more kills than he has years on himself.
Yeah, too many. Need to tone it down a little bit. Went a little bit too hard in the first half. He was vital. It was pretty fitting as well. I mean, we saw the head-to-head we had in the pregame, talking about the two in-game leaders, or at least the two eluded in-game leaders. And well, obviously Glaive being the one on Astralis, and the fact that he is one of those in-game leaders who can bring the big numbers as well. And this was obviously a game where that was showcased pretty heavily. Astralis just from start to finish looked impressive this game.
Yeah, look, the game plan early from NiP looked like they actually wanted to just do these quick A hits, and I can understand the reason for that is because Astralis is normally leaning 3 players towards B so they can lock down Banana. If you can, take advantage of that arch side, if you can get 1 kill for free, then you can really just collapse on that A bomb site. But it wasn't the way. Astralis were ready for it. They had numbers over there continuously, and they were shutting them down. As soon as NiP went back to a regular game plan, Banana control, late B hits, that's when they started to get some rounds on the board. But yesterday we went from only getting 1 T round to this time getting 0 CT rounds. And I was actually having a look. The scoreboards that we get dished out now, I was talking to Halvor about this. Yeah. It used to be we'd have 2 distinct, a CT side and a T side, or first half and second half scoreboards. In the second half here, there was 0 kills from Forest, 0 kills from Lekro, and 0 kills from Rez. They didn't even have an assist between any of them, right? Wow. You had 4 kills from GetRight and 3 from Dennis. So the impact in the second half on the CT side, where the baddies have to come to you, right? It technically should be the easier side of things. They weren't getting any kills whatsoever, so that's a pretty damning stat line right there.
Well, definitely. I mean, just saying, we saw Astralis just taking all those T rounds that they needed to take it to that 16-5 scoreline. They're looking like they're resurging, right? Just bouncing back straight off of that unexpected loss yesterday against Furia.
Yeah, they do.
I think so.
I feel a lot more confident in Astralis right now. I will, I guess, preface it by saying it was Inferno. And, I mean, we've talked a lot about their nuke streak and so on, but before they lost the Pro League qualifiers, they were 17-0 on Inferno as well, which is not a bad streak by any means either. So it's not like they're slouches on this map either. And we will see them actually being tested more once we get to Overpass. And I think that's going to be, I guess, the real true testament to whether or not Astralis just had a bit of a rough going at it, on day one, and actually are full strength coming into us now, because this should be more of an even playing ground.
In theory, but there's no signs here from NiP that are positive, right? Like, it's very difficult to look to too much. When they were hitting the Banana exchange, where they were getting some rounds on the board, that's been now Astralis were the ones who set up, the routines. It's like scissor, paper, rock, and banana, right? It's like a smoke beats a Molotov, and the nades beat the smoke, and there's all this. But now the teams have all kind of copied that and know how to deal with that. And there were some rounds getting taken there. So I feel like a couple are for granted. There's maybe 1 or 2 that are eventually going to pay off. Moving into Overpass. So apparently we're knifing for sides, which apparently. That's what I was in the green room, was having a discussion with the community caster down there, and he said that they were knifing for sides on all the maps yesterday.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. So that actually plays a big factor in vetoes, because in the past you wouldn't normally pick into like a nuke or a train in the first rounds because you knew you had to start on the T side.
Yep.
So that changes things a little bit. So if Astralis going to start on the CT side, they could just put up a wall again.
Yeah.
They're looking for another 10-5 half. They'd be pretty happy with that. And then they just have this, well, at least historically, they thoroughly enjoy hitting that B bomb site. So we'll see how NiP can deal with that.
Well, exactly.
And I'm kind of curious, again, if it is true that Get Right is in-game leading, I mean, Overpass is a pretty big test in terms of to see how...
Mid-round calls are huge.
Exactly, right? It's a true testament to how good of an in-game leader you can be for your team, making those adaptations to when you hit into that wall from Astralis, whether it's going to be an aggressive stance or a defensive stance. Astralis has been known to do both. So that's really my biggest worry. I don't think, I mean, regardless of how much experience he has, he doesn't have a lot of experience doing this particular thing, which is very different from pretty much anything else he's been doing in CS.
Yeah.
So, even though it's a better map for NiP, I'm not supremely confident. But
quick one.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we're going to see if the odds are looking supremely confident against NiP. We're going to have our updated odds brought to you by Pinnacle Esports. Yeah, it's still heavily favouring Astralis.
Did it even change?
I don't think they did. A weeny bit. I'm hearing from producer. I believe it was 1.22. I think it was.
Okay, so
it's
it's
slightly gone up. So you're getting slightly better odds on this one.
That's strange.
That's because of the map.
Yeah. Because of the map.
Still.
There you go.
Okay, well, if it's on a map basis, then
0.4 percentage, right?
A little bit, yeah. I'll give him that.
But yeah, I mean, it's not much. In the grand scheme of things, Astralis is still heavily favoured. And we'll be heading straight into match number 2 after this short break. Don't go anywhere.